Man, listen, today we're going to be talking about the Paycheck Protection Program and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan and the frequently asked questions that I've been reading down in the comments. About 2 weeks ago, I posted a video that walked you through step by step everything that you needed in order to successfully apply for the Paycheck Protection Program as a sole proprietor, LLC, multi-member LLC, and also LLP. But people still had questions. So what I want to do is every single week, I want to release a video answering those questions that are asked most frequently, hence FAQ. So let's go ahead and get started. But before we do, I want to ask you to please kiss the like button with your finger. Question number 1 is from Pardon My Parodies. And she says, I just started a clothing line. I got my DBA, my LLC, my EIN. Do I still qualify? First, it's important for us to understand which program we're talking about. Currently, there is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. There's also the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Cash Advance. And there's also the Paycheck Protection Program. And I know because there are 3 different programs that it's confusing sometimes to understand to what program you should be focused your energy. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan Cash Advance, when it reopens, will offer an opportunity for entrepreneurs to apply for up to a $10,000 cash advance. I don't want you to get confused about the words cash advance because the $10,000 is money that you do not have to pay back if you are indeed approved. So it operates a lot like a grant. But when you apply for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, when the cash advance is available, you're also submitting for a loan. So to recap, when you apply for an Economic Injury Disaster Loan, you both attempt to qualify yourself for a $10,000 cash advance, which is also a grant, but then also you attempt to qualify yourself for a loan. What I've been telling entrepreneurs who do not need a loan in order to continue business operations is that if you are approved for the cash advance, you can accept that, okay? And you can accept the cash advance. They will already wire it to your account. In fact, you do not have to press yes, I accept, or no, I don't accept. No, the $10,000 cash advance / grant, if you are awarded this, will be wired directly into your financial account. But the loan will require that you either accept it or deny it, okay? So Economic Injury Disaster Loan comes with a loan that you either accept or deny, or a cash advance, which is also a grant, which will be wired to you. At this point, with stimulus number 2, the new round of cash advance capital has not become available. Separately, so you see how I literally just paused. Separately, we're going to talk about the Paycheck Protection Program. And these are forgivable loans that are available for small business owners that are trying to either replace compensation that they would have lost as a business owner, or to replace money that they did not earn due to what happened last year, right? With the pandemic, they're looking to replace that income that they would have earned that would have paid people on their payroll. Now you asked, hey, I just filed for my DBA, you just registered your business, maybe you're just opening your business account and you're asking, hey, can I still apply because you just submitted your paperwork? I don't know what just means, but I'm going to give you some dates. For the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, you would have had to have been in business by January 31st, 2020. For the Paycheck Protection Program, you would have had to been in business by February 15, 2020. If you started your business after February 15, 2020, and you were seeking to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program, you will be denied. If you are seeking an Economic Injury Disaster Loan Cash Advance or loan, and you started your business after January 31st, 2020, you will be denied. So I am telling business owners who do not fall within these 2 time frames to get in touch with their community development financial institutions and begin building that relationship for when they release capital for new entrepreneurs who need low interest loans or grants. Okay, so I'm hoping that that answers your question as a new business owner. And now we're going to move forward to the next question. Question number 2 is from Ali Sadiq. And that question is, I started my business at the beginning of 2020. Can I apply for the PPP loan? And how do I calculate how much I will qualify for? All right. That's a really good question. Now, maybe you heard my last answer, question number 1, right? Started your business at the beginning of 2020. You started it January 1st, 2020, or around that time, and you're trying to figure out how you can do the math in order to qualify yourself for the Paycheck Protection Program, all right, which will provide forgivable loans to those entrepreneurs who qualify in order to keep their business operations open. Let's say that you started your business January 1st, 2020, and your business stayed operating through February 29th and beyond. For the PPP, again, we're only looking at January 1st through February 29th, 2020. Let's say you made $10,000 net profit, that's a key word there, net profit during that 2-month time period. You would take $10,000, you would divide that by 2, that means you would get $5,000. That represents your average monthly net, right, income. And then you take that $5,000 and you multiply it by 2.5, which means that you could qualify for $12,500. Now, for most new business owners, your numbers probably won't be that high. You're just starting, you're just trying to find customers. Perhaps you really did have a blowout 2 months. But for a lot of entrepreneurs, you're just getting started and perhaps those numbers are not so high. The reason why I am saying that you have to calculate that net profit, because they're expecting for you to essentially fill out your profit loss form, whether you've submitted it for 2020 or not, and you calculate your gross income, you subtract any expenses that you would deduct on that tax form, and that equals your net profit. So as you're calculating these numbers, right? So if you made $15,000, but perhaps you spent $2,500 on equipment, you spent $2,500 on contractors, then that means that, guess what? $15,000 minus the $5,000 in expenses would equal a $10,000 net profit. Net profit is important because net profit is how much you made after the expenses that you would list on your taxes. And the net profit is what the SBA is specifically wanting to see in order to determine what loan amount will be forgivable. Now, I know a lot of this terminology can seem a little confusing. The great thing about YouTube, right? The great thing about videos is that you can always pause it and play it back. I don't want you to get frustrated because you hear me say it one time and you don't fully understand exactly how to implement it. Okay? Yes, knowledge precedes understanding, right? So we first must acquire knowledge, critically think about it, process it, and apply it in a way that we must understand. So if you have to listen to this 2 or 3 times, don't beat yourself up. Be patient and understand that a benefit lies on the other side of patience. Okay? The next question is from Clearview Properties. All right, and the question was, my mother and I started a company that never made any money. Do we qualify for the PPP? This has been a top question in the comments section. And here's the answer. If your net profit was 0 or negative number, what that means is that you would not qualify for the Paycheck Protection Program. All right, so what that means is that you cannot get a loan, a forgivable loan, for income that you did not generate. So if you did not generate any gross income, you could have still incurred expenses, but that means your net profit was a negative number. So let's say you made $5, but you incurred $20,000, right, in expenses. Inevitably, your net profit is going to be a negative number. If you made $0 gross income, but you had $15,000 in expenses, that means your net profit is going to be negative $15,000. The Paycheck Protection Program was designed to replace your income or your compensation if you are a sole proprietor or a single member LLC, and if you had payroll, if you were paying your employees to keep them on payroll, then it's meant to replace that money, okay? So you cannot replace a number that initially started out as zero, right? The replacement for zero is zero. I don't want you to lose hope. As a new business owner, there are resources that are available to you. As Black entrepreneurs, if there are brown, minority entrepreneurs watching this, I always drive home the fact that you must look for a community development financial institution. $25 billion was in the second stimulus package, and this was specifically set aside to be allocated to these financial institutions in order to support minority entrepreneurs who could not get access to the benefits that should have been available to them through big banks. So don't get disheartened and say, hey, there's no money for me. Yes, there's no money for you right now with the Paycheck Protection Program if your number was a zero or a negative number. However, that does not mean no money is available to you ever. Right? Just because one door closes does not mean another one does not open, right? We walk by faith, not by sight. Yes, the PPP may have said no, but what you need to tell yourself is that on the other end of NO is T and yet. That means not yet. Not yet until you find another opportunity. And my recommendation would be, again, to find yourself a CDFI. I hope that answered your question. Let's go on to the next one. The next question is from Toya G. And she said, my financial institution said I don't qualify because I don't have a business account with them. Where should I go from there? In my video, I said that it was preferred that you go with the financial institution for which you already have an account, all right? So if you already had an account at the institution, my feed forward was go and have a conversation with them. You've already done business with them. You've already put income, your profits that you made from your business or the revenue that you generated from your business inside of that account. You want to have a conversation with the account managers there, right? You want to tell them that this is a benefit that you want. But let's say that they say they don't want to work with you. I don't know, maybe stranger things have happened, or perhaps you don't have an account with a major bank, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have a business. The thing with the Paycheck Protection Program is that you don't have to go with the institution where you have an account. There are other lenders that are participating in the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, one of those is Community Development Financial Institutions, so you may want to find one near a city where you live, and you can go to ofn.org/CDFI/locator, or there are a couple of other companies like Fundera and PayPal Holdings, none of whom have sponsored this video at all, but PayPal Holdings and Fundera, who allow for you to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program via their website. I'm also going to link a Forbes article down below that has an extensive list of non-banks, right? So non-traditional lenders who are legitimately participating in this program. I would reach out to them, or I would initiate an online application with them, and I would begin the process of submitting your paperwork, okay? All right, so the next question is from another Toya. This Toya says, so my mom forwarded your video to me. I'm a mental health therapist, and I work as an independent contractor. I did the Paycheck Protection Program application. It said, based on my Schedule C form, I only qualify for $2,511, as it determined based on my losses, which reported $12,050. That is all I qualify for. Are you able to assist me? Yes. So I can answer that question, and that is, the number is accurate. Again, there are 3 parts on your Schedule C, or 3 parts that we're going to talk about. Part 1 is all about the gross income. That's how much money that you earned in your business. Part 2 is your expenses. So that is all of your losses, just as you explained in your question that you lost $12,050. Now, that number is going to be subtracted from Part 1, your gross income. And then you're going to report on your net profit. That is Part 3. Net profit is gross income subtracted by your losses in order to reach your net profit number. They then take that number, they multiply it, they take that number rather, they divide it by 12, and then they multiply it by 2.5. And the number that you put in your comment is the resulting number that they got. Now, we can look at this in two ways. You can look at it as those losses that you put on your 2019 tax forms reduce your tax liability, therefore reducing your tax bill and potentially qualifying you for a refund. So I don't want you to lose sight of the benefits that exist in part two. Part two is how we can have a president who can walk away with a $750 tax bill and be Gucci. He had losses. He put those on his taxes, so people can make whatever, judgments that they want about whether that was legal or not legal. I'm just talking about the losses. But also there are billionaires and millionaires across the country that leverage the business losses that they get in order to maximize their tax benefits. And that's exactly what you did as an entrepreneur. You made money. You were smart about documenting your losses. Yes, that reduced your net profit, but the benefit that you received from that was on your taxes, right? So reduced tax bill, or you increase the probability of having a tax refund. So that bottom line number for net profit will remain the same unless you amend your taxes. Now, you could amend your taxes, but what that would mean is that you amended, perhaps you listed a loss that shouldn't be on there, you remove that loss in order to increase your net profit. Well, that could also increase your tax bill, and you also may owe the IRS some money if they gave you a tax return. So you definitely want to sit down and have a conversation with your accountant about that. If your business needs money, all right, like really needs money, then you may want to consider the economic injury disaster loan. Yes, there is the cash advance. The cash advance is a grant. That's cash in hand if you qualify, if you meet the requirements. The loan, on the other hand, which is something separate, the economic injury disaster loan, is money that will be lended to you with an interest rate. So it will not be a grant. But as an entrepreneur, you know the circumstances that surround your business and the resources that you need in order to keep doors open. Again, you could consider a community development financial institution, which probably within the next several weeks will release guidance on how they plan to use the stimulus dollars in order to help minority entrepreneurs in their respective communities. So I hope that that was helpful. The net profit is the number that you said was correct when you submitted your tax forms. And so that is the number that SBA will use in order to determine your eligibility. So the next question is from Ashley Brown. And she said, wait, what if I was only dealing in cash? Ashley girl, I'm gonna need you to get legit, okay? If you've been to any of my lives, which happen every Wednesday, one of the things that I talk about is that you have cash, right? That is, and you're holding on to it, it's in your pocket, it's in your wallet, it's in your black-owned bag, your black-owned purse, right? Your black-owned designer bag. Then your cash is not going to work for you in a bank account. It could be earning interest with a banking institution. You could be building a relationship for a future loan. Holding on to cash in hand is not the best way to manage your money. Now, let's say you like, I know, Keys, when I said cash, what that means is that they put a little $20 in my hand, and I took that $20 and I went and I deposited into a bank account. Duh. So if that was your scenario, I would say, okay, you put the cash inside of your bank account. High five, girlfriend. But then the next question I would have is, did you report your earnings on your taxes? Because if you reported your earnings on your taxes as a business owner, well, that means that you would have filled out the Schedule C Form 1040, which is a profit loss statement. It means that you would have reported your gross income, so the cash that people paid you. You would have reported any losses that your business incurred, and ultimately you would have come up with Part 3, which is your net profit. So you would know how much money you made after losses was accounted for. So that means you should be able to reach into your tax paperwork and you should be able to find that number. If you did not report this income on your taxes, give me your hand so I can smack it, okay? Go report that on your taxes. Moving forward, report it on your taxes. But let's say you didn't report that on your tax paperwork. Well, guess what? The SBA doesn't know how to calculate what benefit might be available to you. So I'm hoping that answers your question, Ashley. I hope that hand don't hurt too much. I still love you, girl, but I hope this was a lesson to you and not just totally a loss. Okay, we are at our last question. Yeah. All right. Y'all, sometimes I just sing. I sing and I dance randomly. So if you ever hang out with me, we're going to be a singing and a dancing. We're going to have a good time. All right. So let's read our last one. I didn't apply because I thought I didn't qualify because of the payroll. How would I do this? As a home cleaner and a Lyft driver last year, I did both. Do I use one or do I use both? This is from Nene Set It Straight. Okay, Nene. When I was younger and I used to hoop, come on, Mad Dog 2020 was my nickname. People used to call me KK. KK! They would say it just like that. All right, so it sounds like as a home cleaner, I think you were a sole proprietor. You also mentioned driving Lyft, which means that you were an independent contractor. You definitely want to calculate what your net profit was for both your home cleaning business, which would have been reported on your taxes in your profit loss statement. And then also you want to go ahead and look at the paperwork that Lyft provided you at the conclusion of 2019, which also stated what your net profit was. Okay, so you want to go onto that document and you want to determine what your earnings were. All right, you want to go ahead and report on both, because technically you can only earn $100,000 as an independent contractor and a sole proprietor. How that benefit shakes out is that independent contractors, sole proprietors, even if they file for two different types of business operations, the maximum forgivable loan that you can qualify for is $20,833. How did I get this number? Did I pull it out my boom boom? No, I did not pull it out my bum bum. Sorry, my bum bum. I feel like poom poom is a bad word, so I'm gonna have to look that up. Anyway, you take $100,000, right? And you divide that by 12, you multiply it by 2.5, that comes up to $20,833. That's what that benefit comes to. So if working as a home cleaner and also working for Lyft, you did not exceed $100,000, then you can qualify for that benefit. Let's say you was cleaning homes and you made $75,000 and you was driving for Lyft in 2019 and your net earnings with Lyft were another $75,000. That's $150,000. Well, with the forgivable loan program, with the Paycheck Protection Program forgivable loans, they would say, okay, yes, your net earnings were $150,000. You can only report up to $100,000 for this benefit. And again, $100,000 really equals a maximum forgivable loan of $20,833. The number decreases depending on what your net earnings were across all of your independent contractor relationships and whatever sole proprietor business operations that you had going. Okay? I've been in business for 12 years, and as an independent business owner, working with my SS number, I applied for a PPP at the SBA loan, and I got a loan. But I had to return it because they told me that I had to pay 3.87%. I thought it was forgiven. So I still had to, once I received the money, she contacted me to help me. I became very depressed, and then I had to give the money back. Thank you for the info, but can you help me? I can help you. First, I want to say that self-care is very important. You can't pour from an empty cup, so I want you to take care of you first, whether that means quiet time, whether that means getting a hug from your friend. Black entrepreneurs have experienced just a rough and turbulent time in 2020, but in many different years. You know, we've been locked out of mentorships that are loosely based on connections that don't necessarily include Black faces. When it comes to access to capital, even before the events of last year, we've been locked out of that, right? Trying to hustle our way into a banking relationship, trying to hustle our way into angel investors believing that we are capable, right? Being trained to work 2 times as hard for 2 times less pay. So I understand the stresses that may be on your shoulders, but I want you to understand first that as an entrepreneur, I want you to have faith, okay? Faith being the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not yet seen. I want you to see your success so that you can manifest it. You mentioned depression, and I know that for Black entrepreneurs especially, that sometimes that comes easy to us because we see obstacles. But I want you to understand, right? I want you to understand that you come from a long lineage of ancestors that turn obstacles into opportunities. We are beautiful and resilient people, and your trouble will not last always. So I wanted to start with that. Secondly, I want you to be just very clear about what you apply for, okay? It sounds to me like you applied for the economic injury disaster loan. You may have received a cash advance, which was wired directly into your bank account, and then they may have notified you and said that you qualified for this particular loan and you either needed to approve or deny it. Perhaps you went ahead and approved it and they wired you the money to your account. If you accept an economic injury disaster loan, that cannot be forgiven. Let me say that one more time. If you accept an economic injury disaster loan, that will not be forgiven. You will have to pay that back at a lower interest rate. And that's why it's important for entrepreneurs to understand the difference between the opportunities that are available through the stimulus. The Paycheck Protection Program becomes forgivable if you meet all of the qualifications set forth. You use it as compensation replacement as a sole proprietor, which it seems like you are, or you use it to compensate employees who are on your payroll if you own a corporation. Okay, so that is a totally separate program. In fact, you can use some of that money to cover other qualifiable expenses outside of, right, even just your payroll. Doesn't sound like you have a payroll. Again, you're a sole proprietor, so you can use that to replace your compensation. Separately, right, so separately, we're going to leave Paycheck Protection Program forgivable loans over here, and I heavily encourage you to apply for that benefit because that is a benefit that can be forgiven to you through ownership compensation replacement. When you contact your financial institution or you contact the non-bank lenders that I mentioned earlier in this video, you want to ask them specifically for ownership compensation replacement. You said you were using your social security number, so that lets me know that you were a sole proprietor. Contact them, say you want OCR, ownership compensation replacement. That is separate from the economic injury disaster loan. The economic injury disaster loan, once you click approve, then guess what? You will begin accruing interest at a certain period of time because that loan cannot be forgiven. So I want you again to go back to the start of this video. I want you to listen to the differences between the programs, and I want you to apply which one is best for you. Thank you all so much for being part of this program. I go live every single Wednesday on Instagram at KeziaMW. I'm going to be bringing those live shows to YouTube. So if you want to be part of those live shows, I'm going to be answering questions real time. In the interim, if you've made it this far, I want you to kiss the like button with your finger and hit subscribe. And I look forward to answering your questions. I'm going to try to do this at least once a week. All right.